I think it's really interesting how you have certain schools that develop certain position players, and it can be said of a lot of different schools. And I think that's the reason why when you see there's a long history of them is because people realize that and they recognize that hey, this school is really good at developing quarterbacks, and so then their recruits are good quarterbacks, and then the list goes on and on. So yeah, for the Pac-12, it's awesome that they get good quarterbacks because let's face it, that's the one position you really need to get right.
Well, the Pac-12 has a great history of producing quarterbacks anyways. The list goes on and on. If you start looking at Super Bowl quarterbacks in the Pac-12, I'll even take you back to a guy, Steve, I don't know his name all too well, a guy by the name of Jim Plunkett out of Stanford. Now, albeit he didn't make it with New England, forget that, okay? He ends up getting another chance with the Raiders and he wins a couple Super Bowls. And the list goes on. I mean, I can't think of how many Super Bowl quarterbacks have come out of there that have ended up winning. Well, here's another one. What about Troy Aikman? If there's ever a time for Mel Farr to miss a show, too bad, Mel. We're complimenting UCLA, pal, because Troy Aikman is in there, and he won out of UCLA. So that conference is known to produce an awful lot of quarterbacks. And this list that I went out there and mentioned just goes to show you how deep that conference is. It's a shame it went down, but the history is what it is going to be. And when Washington State and Oregon State decided to save it, they weren't stupid. They saved a conference with a great deal of history because they maintained the history itself. Now, they're never going to get an automatic bid like they would have been if they were a Power 5 school, but it doesn't matter. When we talk about the future revampment of that conference down the road, it'll still be respectable enough to have good quality competition. But think about it. Jim Plunkett and then Troy Aikman, not too bad for sure. All right, well, let's go to college football. The reality is of the Miami. I'm sorry, go ahead, Stephen. You want to add to it?
Yeah, I was going to say, you brought back memory. When I was a youngster, Jim Plunkett was the first NFL jersey I ever owned. When he played for New England.
No kidding, really? Jim Plunkett?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
I'll tell you what, I thought he was going to do pretty well.
Right? Yeah, I'm dating myself there. But yeah, he was so beat up after his years with the Patriots that Al Davis basically sat him for an entire season so he could get healthy. And then he led the Raiders to a couple of Super Bowls. So, yeah.